Tonight, the political storm unfolding on Capitol Hill today after House Speaker Nancy Pelosi rejected two Republicans for the January 6th Select Committee that will now investigate what led to the attack on the Capitol on democracy. The Speaker drawing very strong criticism tonight for the move. He acknowledged the move is unprecedented but necessary, the Speaker claims, given men's actions. So were those actions and how are they responding tonight? Here's our senior national correspondent, Terry Moran in Washington.
Tonight, as Congress moves to investigate what violent insurrection at the Capitol, Speaker Nancy Pelosi making a stunning and unprecedented move. Declaring the integrity of the investigation was at stake, Pelosi rejected two Republican congressmen, Jim Jordan of Ohio and Jim Banks of Indiana, handpicked by the GOP leadership to sit on the special committee. Pelosi said she had concern about some of their statements and actions. Within hours, House GOP leader Kevin McCarthy made his decision, threatening to pull all Republicans off the committee.
Pelosi created a sham process. Unless Speaker Pelosi reverses course and seats all 5 Republicans, we will not participate.
Both Jim Banks and Jim Jordan voted to overturn the election after the insurrection, and Jordan has repeatedly attacked the idea of an investigation.
They just want to be partisan. They just want to continue to attack the former president.
In May, Republicans in both the House and Senate blocked an independent 9/11-style commission to investigate January 6th, which would have been made up of Republicans and Democrats outside Congress. Now, Pelosi says they're still moving forward with the Select Committee.
We have
bipartisan, because there will be one Republican on the committee, whatever McCarthy says. Congress Liz Cheney, who voted to impeach Donald Trump because of his actions on January 6th.
The American people what happened in this investigation.
All right, Terry Moran, that was from Liz Cheney late today. Liz Cheney is just the one remaining. This committee will move forward. The first hearing next week.
That's right, David. The first hearing next Tuesday. Committee made up of 7 Democrats and Liz Cheney, all handpicked by Nancy Pelosi. The first witness is some Capitol police officers who were attacked during that insurrection.
Science is more than a body of knowledge. It is a way of thinking. I have a foreboding of an America in my children's or grandchildren's time when the United States is a service and information economy, when nearly all the key manufacturing industries have slipped away to other countries, when awesome technological powers are in the hands of a very few, and no one representing the public interest can even grasp the issues, when the people have lost the ability to set their own agendas or knowledgeably question those in authority, when, clutching our crystals and nervously consulting our horoscopes, our critical faculties in decline, unable to distinguish between what feels good and what's true, we slide, almost without noticing, back into superstition and darkness. The dumbing down of America is most evident in the slow decay of substantive content in the enormously influential media. The 30-second sound bites, now down to 10 seconds or less, lowest common denominator programming, credulous presentations on pseudoscience and superstition, but especially a kind of celebration of ignorance. As I write, the #1 video cassette rental in America is the movie Dumb and Dumber. Beavis and Butthead remain popular and influential with young TV viewers. The plain lesson is that study and learning, not just of science but of anything, are avoidable, even undesirable. We've arranged a global civilization in which most crucial elements, transportation, communications, and all other industries, agriculture, medicine, education, entertainment, protecting the environment, and even the key democratic institution of voting, profoundly depend on science and technology. We have also arranged things so that almost no one understands science and technology. This is a prescription for disaster. We might get away with it for a while, but sooner or later this combustible mixture of ignorance and power is going to blow up in our faces.
Hey guys, this is Tommy with Tommy Nation Politics.
Years from now,
how's everyone doing today?
some of them may look back and ask themselves whether they've made the right choice, whether they've made the most of the opportunities they've been given. Together, we have the same mission. Over the course of your life, you will find that things are not always fair. You will find that things happen to you that you do not deserve and that are not always warranted. But you have to put your head down and fight, fight, fight. Never, ever, ever give up. Don't give in, don't back down, and never stop doing what you know is right. Nothing worth doing ever, ever, ever came easy. And the more righteous your fight, the more opposition that you will face. In your hearts are inscribed the values of service, sacrifice, and devotion.
Is this the Krusty Krab?
No, this is Patrick.
Is this the Krusty Krab?
No, this is Patrick.
It's been 24 hours since a violent mob stormed the U.S. Capitol. You're looking at some of the aftermath left behind in the Capitol building. It's being called an assault on democracy that shut down Congress for hours and left 4 dead, and much of the nation stunned in disbelief. Good evening, everyone. I'm Crystal Cruz. Well, tonight we are bringing you team coverage across the basin and from across the nation. We begin with Dana Morris. Today we learned the FBI is starting to try to identify those people instigated that violence at the Capitol. How are special agents hoping to track down these people, Dana?
Well, Crystal, special agents are asking for any pictures or video of people being violent or taking part in starting a riot, and with that, any information that would help identify those people. Obviously, there's a lot of video circling around social media right now, and special agents are hoping to maybe use some of that as evidence.
The American historian Howard Zinn wrote, "If those in charge of our society, politicians, corporate executives, and owners of press and television, can dominate our ideas, they will be secure in their power. They will not need soldiers patrolling the streets. We will control ourselves." In this day and age, we are exposed to enormous amounts of propaganda, some of which is used for the purpose of manipulating us into thinking and acting in ways which only further the interests of small minorities. The purpose of this lecture is to examine propaganda and communicate information which will hopefully enable individuals to arm themselves against the dangerous effects of propaganda. It should be noted that we will draw largely from the classic work by Jacques Ellul, Propaganda, the Formation of Men's Attitudes. Propaganda can be defined as a type of persuasion tactic which displays three general characteristics. Firstly, propaganda is deliberately made by an individual or group of individuals, called the propagandist, for the purpose of manipulating individuals into adopting certain ideas and behaviors. Secondly, propaganda never presents an issue in a clear and unbiased manner. Instead, propaganda attempts to present one side of an issue as if it were an absolute truth.
As protesters stormed the U.S. Capitol yesterday, clashes unfolded, windows were broken, and moments of one of the most unique days in American history were caught on camera. As a result, the FBI is now hoping to use those pictures and video to investigate. They've opened a new webpage specific for tips regarding yesterday's incident at the U.S. Capitol. On the page, you can attach any media directly to your tip. They also took to social media with a tweet earlier that announced they're looking to identify the people who were violent or rioting. Among the protesters, all the way from Midland, was local business owner and former mayoral candidate Jenny Cudd.
We just pushed and pushed and pushed, okay? And we got in.
And in a picture that's been shared across national news networks, the local business owner was seen inside the Capitol wearing a Trump flag as a cape.
I was surprised for sure. And when we got in at that, it was right at that moment that picture was taken.
Now, Cudd says she didn't witness any violent encounters like this during her experience.
I personally did not see any violence at all. I didn't see anybody get beat up. I didn't see anything like that.
And this morning, a day after the protests, Ms. Cudd says she started to make her trip back home to the tall city. Now, Ms. Cudd tells me that she believes several people may have already reported her to the FBI, but she's not concerned because she says everything that she took part in was non-violent. So we'll just have to wait and see. Reporting in Midland, Dana Morris.
Adolf Hitler, who with the help of his propaganda minister Joseph Goebbels implemented one of the most massive propaganda campaigns of the 20th century, captured this characteristic with these words. The function of propaganda is not to make an objective study of the truth and then set it before the masses with academic fairness. Its task is to serve our own right, always and unflinchingly. Finally, propaganda tends to use psychological manipulation tactics and to play on the emotions and prejudices of individuals so as to convince them that the idea, action, or attitude they adopted was one they chose through their own personal volition. This last feature of propaganda is what can make it especially dangerous. Jacques Ellul provided a chilling description of the individual whose personality has been thoroughly molded by propaganda. When he recites his propaganda lesson and says that he is thinking for himself, when his eyes see nothing and his mouth only produces sounds previously stenciled into his brain, when he says that he is indeed expressing his judgment, then he really demonstrates that he no longer thinks at all, ever, and that he does not exist as a person.
We turn to Congress now, and House Speaker Nancy Pelosi announcing that Representative Liz Cheney will serve on a select committee to investigate the January 6th insurrection. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy has threatened to retaliate by taking away committee assignments from Republican members who agree to serve on that panel. NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Garrett Hake joins us now from Washington with more on this. Garrett, can you sort of break down the latest on this special committee, other than Cheney, who's going to be serving on it, what they'll be empowered to do?
Yeah, so Cheney gets the headlines, but this is a committee of fairly heavy hitters on the Democratic side. It's also made up of three separate committee chairmen, including Adam Schiff, the Intel Committee chairman, Zoe Lofgren, who chairs the House Administration Committee, and Benny Thompson, who chairs the Homeland Security Committee and will chair this body. So it's a serious investigatory effort to get to the bottom of what happened on January 6th and do the work that a commission would could have done. You mentioned Liz Cheney, obviously, she, a Republican, being picked by the Democratic-controlled, Speaker of the House to sit on the Democratic side of this panel makes it bipartisan from the outset. We still don't know exactly what McCarthy's going to do in terms of appointing people.
Garrett, I want to ask you about the Speaker's response to McCarthy threatening to keep Republicans from doing their other work if they agree to serve on this panel.
Yeah, so backing up a little bit, we learned that last night Leader McCarthy had told Republicans that if you were going to serve on this committee by appointment of the Speaker, if you were going to take your appointment from the Democratic Speaker, you might as well be prepared to take all of your appointments from Democrats. Essentially an open-ended threat, as though he were going to pull committee assignments from Republicans if they were appointed by the Speaker. Not to say they couldn't be appointed by him to serve on this committee at a later date. He got pressed on this at his press conference earlier. Here's what McCarthy said about this. We'll talk about Pelosi's response on the other side.
I'm not making any threats about committee assignments, but as you know how Congress works, you get elected by district and you get your committees from your conference. So when Jeff Van Drew left the party and became a Republican, he got lost his committee assignment from the Speaker and got from the Republican conference. When Justin Amash left, he then went and got his committee assignments from the Speaker.
Pelosi said she's not really going to engage in this. This will be McCarthy's choice to make, but McCarthy maybe doesn't want the kind of showdown with Cheney that this would provide. He's done everything he can to limit her profile, and by stripping her of her committee assignments for appearing on a select committee, it just elevates her once again.
Cheney was one of only two Republicans to vote in favor of forming this committee. What role ultimately Republicans going to have in whatever this committee's work it turns out to be?
Well, broadly, that remains to be seen. Cheney put out a statement. She's also spoken to reporters. She said she feels like this is her constitutional duty to take part in this and to get to the bottom of what happened. She said, by the way, she's not concerned about that threat from McCarthy.
It's just politically driven by Speaker Pelosi. When we proposed to do a commission back in January, she said no, she just wanted to make it political. When we responded back to her, she waited 10 weeks to say anything else. I don't think anybody in America, I think even your viewers understand what a sham this committee is and how politically driven. For her to pick and choose who can serve on, to say that the ranking member of Judiciary who would have jurisdiction cannot serve. When she decides that Jim Banks, who served his nation in the Navy in Afghanistan, that he can't serve here. So I thought, from what the Speaker has done, that puts a great deal of doubt in it. I mean, at no time in the history of a select committee in America, and I checked with the historian, has what Speaker Pelosi done ever happened before. The idea that she's going to pick and choose, you're not going to get an outcome. I mean, she's picking and choosing, and she put a chairman on that objected to the election of George Bush.
The Federal Bureau of Investigation, according to its own website, was started in 1908, but at that point it was called the Bureau of Investigation, or BOI. There had been interstate crime-fighting organizations before this, doing things like looking for what was perceived as dangerous anarchists and regulating state-to-state commerce. But 1908 is generally said to be the beginning of the FBI. Before it got that abbreviation, it was also called the United States Bureau of Investigation, and later the Division of Investigation. The U.S. was growing in size, and population and crime was growing with it. As the FBI website states, inventions like the telephone, the telegraph, and the railroad had seemed to shrink its vast distances even as the country had spread west. After years of industrializing, America was wealthier than clever too, and a new world power on the block. But what that meant was that criminals could be more sophisticated, they could get organized, and while this was happening, official corruption was rife. This was the dawn of hyper-criminality in the US, and regular police forces were either ill-equipped or even on the payroll of criminals. Something had to change, and a man called J. Edgar Hoover was made director of the FBI in 1924. He'd stay in that position for a long time, and this controversial figure wasn't always very ethical. We'll get around to ethics or lack thereof soon. Hoover was put in charge of creating the Scientific Crime Detection Laboratory, the FBI lab, in 1932. He would begin a war on crime, and on his hands by the end of his tenure in 1972, this wasn't just the blood of machine gun-toting gangsters, but people who were sometimes called radicals. The FBI no doubt had a job to do, but looking back, no one, even the FBI, disagrees that its modus operandi was often quite oppressive. And so we might first talk about something called the Palmer Raids. These were conducted from November 1919 to January 1920 during what was called the Red Scare. America didn't want any damned commies tainting its land of free people, and President Woodrow Wilson at the time told these new federal cops that leftists, anarchists, communists, perhaps even anyone with a radicalized view that didn't fit with the capitalist ethos should be captured and thrown out of the country. The problem was, you could say this operation didn't always embrace human rights. Often, anyone who just didn't look right was arrested and people's houses were searched without warrants. That's why some historians write that the operation was a series of violent and abusive law enforcement raids. Not only were the raids a breach of rights in some cases, but the deportations that followed were sometimes really not warranted. Government officials had been attacked and bombs had been sent by mail, while people were rioting over what they deemed unfair pay. But the ensuing crackdown, we might say today, was a little OTT. Take, for example, when around 200 Russian immigrants were studying at something called the Russian People's House in New York City. Cops went in and reportedly just started beating folks with billy clubs. It said one algebra class was interrupted and the teacher was beaten in front of students. Some of those students were arrested and had their money taken from them by the police. In fact, across the country, thousands of people were detained on suspicion for months on end, and they weren't allowed lawyers. In one case, a man called Gaspar Cannone was arrested without being charged. He then wouldn't admit to being a communist, so the cops just forged his signature saying he was, and then he was deported. When it was done and dusted, thousands of people across the US had been tortured, beaten, held for no reason, deported, even starved in one case of 1,000 detainees, and many, most in fact, were innocent. The whole thing was a disgrace, but it took time for the government to admit the full extent of the damage done. A positive thing that came out of it was these raids resulted in the formation of the American Civil Liberties Union. Every cloud has a silver lining, but try telling that to those who suffer the most. So those were the early days when the FBI used extrajudicial powers to cause pain and embrace injustice. But the threat of a communist uprising stayed with America, and many others would unnecessarily be hurt. What you might not know is that the FBI had lots of informants who would tell them if they suspected anyone they knew. One of those was the Ronald Reagan, a man who would become president. Before that, the FBI believed that many communist sympathizers were running wild in Hollywood and preaching to the uninitiated. Who better to have on the inside than a famous actor? And it was Reagan, codenamed T10, that ratted on his fellow Hollywood acquaintances. It said Reagan and his actress wife Jane Wyman gave a list of names of people working in Hollywood who they thought were a bit on the red side. Reagan was on board as far back as 1941, a long time before he filled the White House big seat. No one knew about this for a long time, of course, and when it was discovered, the FBI said his role was minor. Records show that Reagan even added one man to the list he had just got into a drunken debate with over politics. You'll find information on T10 in a document called Communist Infiltration of the Motion Picture Industry. Now, as you know, the FBI have had all kinds of informants, and many of them were criminals and killers. They had violent Italian mob boss Frank Cappa, as well as a long list of other Italian-American mafia figures. They had Whitey Bulger, the Irish-American gangster, as well as many other gangsters all over the country. These assets were needed, and as you know, occasionally the FBI would have to turn a blind eye to some hardcore criminality. But the case of one asset sticks out. This was the case of the African-American man called Elmer Pratt. Pratt served twice in Vietnam, but on his return rose up the ranks of the political organization called the Black Panthers. The FBI didn't much like the Panthers, and they wrote in that their intention was to neutralize him, as he had become the organization's Minister of Defense. So they neutralized him, but to do that, they set him up for a murder he didn't commit. The FBI made sure information was withheld from the jury and failed to say that the person who had identified Pratt had earlier said it was someone else. That person was told to make a second guess. He was sentenced to life and served 27 years, spending 8 of those in solitary. It was then later discovered that the trial was a charade of justice, and one man who had said Pratt had discussed the murder with him was actually an FBI informant. The man was a major factor in him being committed. Pratt was released and given $4.5 million in compensation. You might also not know that in order to keep its assets, the FBI had or has to allow a lot of crimes to take place. According to one document the agency released, in 2011 alone, it allowed 5,658 crimes to happen. On average, 15 a day. Or did you know that you don't have to be arrested for the FBI to have your fingerprints? If you've ever had your prints scanned for anything, they might end up with millions of other fingerprints on the Integrated Automated Fingerprint Identification System in Clarksburg, West Virginia. We should also tell you that if you've ever wanted a genealogical DNA check and have ordered one, the FBI might be able to get their hands on that. This is how the Golden State Killer was caught. He might have found out he was part Native American with a bit of sub-Saharan African ancestry, but the FBI found out who their serial killer was. Another thing the FBI liked to do was smear people, and they did it with a vengeance. We make the case of young actress Seberg. The FBI wasn't fond of her because she was outspoken about civil rights, and she had donated cash to a number of supportive organizations. Records show that the agency had a plan to ruin her life. One document reads, "Bureau permit is requested to publicize the pregnancy of Jean Seberg. It's felt that the possible publication of Seberg's plight could cause her embarrassment and serve to cheapen her image with the general public." It said the stress from the FBI and the publications working with it led to premature labor and her baby living only 2 days. Still, they kept her phone tapped and honored her with round-the-clock surveillance. She then started finding it hard to land roles in movies. The outcome was suicide, and her ex-husband said the FBI drove her to it. You can find a similar case in someone called Billie Holiday, an FBI public enemy because she sang jazz that defended blacks against cruelty. She was also known to ingest illegal substances, and at the time, jazz and getting high was seen as corrupting the youth. Federal Bureau of Narcotics, which is separate from but still linked to the FBI, started a smear campaign and again oppressive surveillance. It's written they did this for years, and then it said they very likely planted drugs on her. As many articles point out, they hunted her and they broke her. She died age 44 from liver cancer, but before that, this is what one person sent to investigate her said, "I'm going to do her up so goddamn bad she's going to remember as long as she lives." She also wrote this not long before she died. "The hounding and the pressure drove me to think final solution, death." Just so you know, another famous singer the FBI had under surveillance was former Beatles renegade John Lennon. The agency didn't much like his give peace a chance stance. Those darned hippie English radicals were not welcome in the US, but a member of the public finally rubbed out Lennon's existence. The FBI used quite a lot of women, and perhaps one of the most famous of those was a lady that would become known as the Woman in Red. This was a gal called Ana Kuponiaș who'd gone to the US from Romania in 1909, except she didn't find opportunity there in the best of ways and ended up selling her body on the streets and in houses of ill repute. The FBI realized she worked in a place where the outlaw John Dillinger liked to go. Kupanyach was arrested for being an alien of low moral character, but told she wouldn't be deported if she helped them catch a guy called John. And she was promised the $10,000 reward, or about $200,000 today. She said she would wear red and go to the movies with Dillinger, and that she did. The outcome was a dead Dillinger.
It should be noted that as a persuasion tactic, propaganda is value neutral, or in other words, neither good nor bad. The 20th century propaganda theorist Howard Laswell wrote that propaganda as a tool is no more moral or immoral than a pump handle. While propaganda is merely a tool, moral judgments can be made regarding the ends for which propaganda is used. And it is because propaganda has so often been used for nefarious purposes that today it is widely considered as evil in and of itself. Propaganda, according to Philip Taylor, author of Munitions of the Mind, can be distinguished from education in that while propaganda tells people what to think, education teaches people how to think. However, as educational systems have long been used as vehicles to disseminate propaganda, the distinction between education and propaganda is often blurry. As a persuasion tactic, propaganda in one form or another has been used for virtually the entire course of human history. Yet the word propaganda was first used in 1622. In that year, Pope Gregory XV established the Congregation for the Propagation of the Faith. The main function of the congregation was to defend the doctrines of Catholicism against challenges arising from the Protestant Reformation. The early 20th century is usually identified as an important turning point in the history of propaganda, as it was during this period that so-called modern propaganda emerged. What differentiates modern propaganda from all earlier forms of propaganda is the use of mass media, such as radio and television, as a medium to disseminate propaganda. Britain and the United States were the first countries to utilize mass media in this manner, and thus the countries where modern propaganda originated. The utilization of mass media allowed propagandists to reach audiences on a scale never before imagined. The American George Creel, author of the book How We Advertised America, is considered one of the forefathers of modern propaganda. Creel was a friend of Woodrow Wilson, who was president during America's entry into World War I. Wilson called on George Creel to organize a committee which came to be known as the Committee on Public Information, or the Creel Commission, whose purpose was to create propaganda in order to transform the attitude of the American population into one of war-hungry patriotic excitement. As Noam Chomsky explained, such a propaganda campaign was highly successful. The Creel Commission succeeded within 6 months in turning a pacifist population into a hysterical warmongering population which wanted to destroy everything German, tear the Germans limb from limb, go to war and save the world. Britain also made extensive use of propaganda during World War I, and Hitler, who once famously stated, "Propaganda, propaganda, propaganda, all that matters is propaganda," was intrigued by the success of the Allied war propaganda. Explaining the effect such propaganda had on him, Hitler wrote, "But it was not until the war that it became evident what immense results can be obtained by a correct application of propaganda. Here again, unfortunately, all our study had to be done on the enemy's side, for the activity on our side was modest, to say the least. For what we failed to do, the enemy did with amazing skill and really brilliant calculation. I myself learned enormously from this enemy war propaganda." One of the most prevalent types of propaganda, and the type which will concern us for the remainder of the lecture, is political propaganda. Political propaganda is propaganda used by a government, state, or political party for the purpose of altering the ideas and behavior of individuals in order to achieve certain political or economic ends. All political propaganda is vertical propaganda, in the sense that it is made by a propagandist who creates and implements propaganda while standing over and above the ignorant population. Classic propaganda, as one usually thinks of it, is a vertical propaganda, in the sense that it is made by a leader, a technician, a political or religious head who acts from the superior position of his authority and seeks to influence the crowd below. Such propaganda comes from above. It is conceived in the secret recesses of political enclaves. It uses all technical methods of centralized mass communication. It envelops a mass of individuals, but those who practice it are on the outside.
Hey guys, this is Tommy with Tommy Nation Politics. How's everyone doing today? Tommy Nation Politics.
only looks could kill. Yeah, you treat me like a spy when I come around, just like a private eye roaming through your town. You treat me like a spy, and I can't see why. You only looks could kill.
Hey guys, this is Tommy with Tommy Nation Politics. How's everyone doing today? Tommy Nation Politics.
What's up, guys? Tommy with Tommy Nation Politics. How's it going today? This Tommy Nation Tuesday, Midterm Madness, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, July 27th, 2021. Be there or be square. Y'all, back in the 90s, that shit used to be really cool. Are you some kind of square or whatnot? Gay wad? You know the thing. As if. Yeah, guys. I really like when stuff gets retro, stuff comes back into style. Something that'll always be in style, though, is Tommy Nation Politics. Make sure that you hit us up at www.tommynationpolitics.com. Also, if you want to send me messages, engage in some free-thinking, innovative, totally open-minded behavior, hit me up at the Facebook page. It's facebook.com/TommyNationPolitics. And make sure that you join us on our Tommy Nation Tuesdays live streams, guys. I hate to be mean, guys, but, ladies and gentlemen, I believe that you have committed a crime. You've committed a crime! I've had an epiphany, guys. The majority of the American people have committed a crime. It is up to the judicial interpretation whether it be intentional, reckless, or negligence. But I believe all three, in my opinion. Why would I do that? Why would I ask that? Why would I say that? Why would I assert that, guys? Well, a person acts intentionally when he or she acts purposely or knowingly. Do you purposely and knowingly know that these two parties that have been in power for so long, that have maintained their power through territorial pacts and bipartisan legislation, are not robbing us and have been? That they stored our metadata in undisclosed locations? That Edward Snowden is on the run, an American hero? Did you not know? Maybe it could be negligence if you didn't know. But now I'm telling you, so what's your excuse now, guys? What about recklessness? Why are you so reckless with the life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, guys? That we, as the American people, our birthright and citizenship, have given us. Why do you want to throw our birthright away and give it to them, the political class, who I love to call, and is completely coined true, the puppets of the rich? They are the puppets of the rich, guys. And they're working with the puppets of the rich are working with the dogs of the elites. Who are they? The Federal Bureau of Instigation. Who else? Federal Bureau of Instigation, guys. Did you hear that video? Talking about how they were literally made. They were literally made, guys, to infiltrate and destroy left-wing groups. But I got to read the Mueller report. Hold on. You call yourself a leftist, people? You're not. And I'm here. Tommy Nation Politics is here to make sure that everyone knows that you're not. And also to bring down these two parties, the Republicans and Democrats. I know I can't do it alone, guys. I need help. Which is why I brought in one of my favorite professors and a guy who, a brother in arms, a son of liberty, guys, Dr. Burgess. So we're going to talk about this January 6th thing. We got a lot to talk about. Dr. Burgess probably doesn't even know. He's probably trying to stay away from this shit because it is a quagmire, guys. Anything involved with these political hacks are quagmires, just so y'all know. But anyway, yeah. Dr. Burgess, are you on?
Am I on? You tell me.
You look on. You look on.
Look on? Can you hear me okay? It's a big,
yeah.
Question. Oh, yay. My mic works this time. Yay. Good.
Oh, that's awesome. So, yeah. How's it been going? I haven't talked to you in a while.
It's been a while. Yeah. I haven't been online basically at all. Not music, anything. Just some personal health stuff.
Oh yeah.
I've been watching, man. I've been listening. You see, I've been posting.
Yeah, I see you have. Although you haven't been posting a live stream, aren't you angry? Aren't you as angry as I am?
Well,
I don't. You heard my intro. Go ahead.
Yeah. I think my thing with I mean, I want to do live streams. I mean, I got this set up. I could do. You do some great work, man. Your stuff is awesome. Your mixing, everything is cool. I'm afraid, like, if I open my mouth, I won't shut up ever.
Oh, okay.
I gotta just figure out, like narrow it down. You're really good. You asked me like pointed questions, like, what do I think of July 4th? Like, what does that mean to me? That's a good one. Like pick a thing at a time, because holy shit, it's like an onslaught. In what, a week and a half, I turned 56 years old, and I've been through. Thank you so much. I mean, I'm born 1965, so I'm like the first year of Gen X. Not a boomer. Don't call me boomer. So I've seen some shit. I wore the bracelets, the POW bracelet for the Vietnam POWs and shit. I mean, I was that thing that Biden tried to run away from, the busing thing. I was one of those bus kids. That was me. I was in the early 70s. They sent us off to who the fuck knows where, and no one wanted that, which was hilarious.
Well, didn't you know that was just a debate? Ha 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 ha! It was a debate. She thinks it's so funny. She thinks it's so funny. Not legalizing marijuana is funny. Not legalizing marijuana is funny. Busing is funny, even though she brought it up. These people aren't even serious anymore, Doc, and that's what makes me a little scared, because whatever this voodoo is that seems to work on 40% of the population, it's working. That's what I don't understand. I don't get it. They're half past fake to me. Like, I've already seen this movie before, like, to me, and that was before I was paying attention.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
There's a lot. I mean, there is a lot to talk about. But what are we doing tonight? Like, what do you want to know?
Okay, so
what do you want to talk about?
Okay, well, there's two things. There's two things I want to talk about. First of all, first of all is the January 6th, and let's get on the same page about this, because I think we already are. But let's just note. We're talking about January 6th, the commission, and we're talking. And we're going to talk about the FBI and their part in this, the deep state. Okay, that's what we're talking about. So I've got some things to say. First of all, anytime these two parties, like I started on my promo, anytime these two parties want to do something, and then they at first wanted to, right? That was before the Democrats became bloodthirsty and completely power hungry. Like, they were robbing us together until one day Nancy Pelosi decided to investigate everyone. They did. They're doing it now.
Not everyone.
Who not? Who not?
They're only going after, like,
the other party. They're going after the other party.
Trump supporters, people who showed up on January 6th.
Well,
they're
going after every Republican. They're going after Ted Cruz. They're going after Jim Jordan, which is why she didn't put him on the thing.
Who dared to question the certification of the election, which has happened every fucking year that we've had an election. It's so fucking disingenuous.
I know. I know, and that's why I'm saying that
even these people calling. I mean, the fact that they keep calling this an insurrection and making a deal out of it, just after what we're still looking at a year fucking later, like people burning shit down and setting federal buildings on fire and throwing rocks at fucking cops and just walking up to them and executing them on the spot and shit like that. They turned Portland into a fucking like war zone, But these people who showed up on January 6th, like the dude in the Viking hat and the old lady waving a fucking flag. I mean, they keep calling it an insurrection. I'm like,
well, we should not. That's another funny part is that I thought we were defunding the cops, defunding the police, right? Turns out we love the police when they're in the insurrection. We love the Mueller report when
they let people in the door. Yeah.
Jesus Christ, dude! I know exactly. How did they even get in? From some woman's account, they were just let in. Yeah, exactly.
They walked in.
Who even knows? But you know what I know? I know that Nancy Pelosi should not be in charge of it. That's what I know.
No, it's so partisan. It's so obviously partisan. And then I loved your little thing to me today. The fact that you've got someone like Liz Cheney is the so-called Republican I'm like, oh, a Cheney.
We're back into the
That
2001.
is not a
Back in
Republican.
the 2000s.
Not
She's
anymore.
a neocon. She's a neocon. The neocons and the neo-libs have teamed up to
They
know.
always have. They've always been the same thing, Thomas.
I
Like,
mean,
sides
they
of a
just
coin.
did you see what they did to the military budget? And Joe Biden didn't want it to happen. What Joe Biden is Tula fucking like making sense. When Joe Biden's making sense, guys, you know you're just completely like corrupt beyond imagination. If Joe Biden is starting to be like, hey guys, I think that's like a little too much money we're giving the military and the Pentagon, the military industrial complex. What Joe Biden tells you, oh my God, this is like it's not getting better, Doc. It's not.
No.
So like, what is there any like way we can communicate this to the partisans and maybe get them to have sense on this? Because they're cheering for our literal expansion of the security state. They're cheering for it.
Yep. I sit there and read it and look at it every freaking day, and I just like can't believe these are my like friends I've grown up with and shit. And I'm like, what is wrong with you?
Do they remember when they stored our metadata at undisclosed locations and Edward Snowden literally had to go to Russia and flee?
Yeah.
Did they remember that?
You know, you got like Eric Barbera, all these guys who are like, you know, he's been in Europe a long time, so he's like he's turned from like a kind of a sort of a libertarian minded guy into this like Eurolib kind of thing. And he's like, what's the big deal? Like, what's really,
man? Hitler just wants to get rid of the Jews, man.
They're just censoring people with who say
the Jews are going to Six Flags, man. It's okay.
Oh God. So I don't know what's happening. I mean, it's one thing for
idiots are happening.
For our leaders. Our leaders have done this. You said it. You just did a history of propaganda. I mean, for the government to be lying to us, that's like, that check your watch for like what day and time is it? Fuck that.
That's like every day, every second. Every time they open their mouths, they lie. Every time.
Yes, exactly.
Every time.
The thing that's amazing me is the people who just like buy this hoax that the government is, now a kinder, gentler, unified. Now we're going to be happy. And I'm like, you were talking about fascism for 4 years. You obviously have not a fucking clue what fascism is. Not a clue.
You don't think after 4 years they would have a clue? Maybe they did. Maybe they had too much of a clue.
They don't know.
They're literally executing every single tenet of fascism ever since.
Oh man, there are now.
I know they are. That started with the New Yorker. It started with the New York when they took they literally said that it was hacked. The computer was hacked. It wasn't hacked with the technocrats. Remember the Hunter Biden's laptop? It wasn't hacked. Then they took the New York. What was that conservative magazine or newspaper? The New Yorker? Is that the New Yorker?
No, I think it's the New York Post.
New York Post.
New York
Okay.
Post is not. New York Post is not a conservative newspaper.
They kind of are. Kind of are.
I
don't care either. Does that matter? Does that even matter? I mean, literally, this is why I forgo like talking about ideology because it doesn't matter. Wrong is wrong and right is right.
You're fucking conservative now. It's so fucked up.
Yeah, and he's not a conservative at all. He's not. I've never heard anything conservative coming out from Trump except the God is gonna kill your God and gods and guns. That's all I can. He's gonna hurt the Bible. He's gonna hurt God. So the last thing I've ever heard of it was. Other than that, Trump is just pretty much Trump. He's nothing but Trump to me. But anyway, walls and wheels, free speech, walls and wheels. He just says catchphrases, gargles them up. He's literally the manifestation of us. He is our id, the American id. He is, and that's why I preferred him as president to Joe Biden. Joe Biden is the representation of all of our sins coming back and biting us in the ass.
Yeah,
not our personality or perspective.
Well put.
But Joe Biden is literally everything, every wrong thing we did, every wrong decision we made in the 90s and 2010, come to back to try to fix it. And you know what? It's not being fixed, Doc.
They're not fixing it.
Yeah, it's not being fixed at all. It's being fascist.
Do you think he's really president or in charge? Do you really think that?
I don't. I think Kamala is.
He telegraphs it all the time.
Yeah, he does.
Like,
he says it. He says a lot.
Let's pick you. Yeah, your question. Yeah, like Melissa has to choose you. And then if he gets asked a question off the cuff, he's like, "Oh, they're gonna like
I'm gonna get in trouble. I'm gonna get in trouble.
Hey, they're gonna be in trouble. I'm gonna be in trouble with them." And I'm like, "Fuck, dude, you're the fucking president of the United States. Who's them? You are
it's Wall Street,
the leader of the free fucking room.
Complex.
You tell
Kamala
people
Harris
what to do,
and probably Hillary Clinton. Probably Hillary Clinton too.
Oh,
She's
Lord.
probably them.
There's a bunch of they're like, you know, he's
definitely
empty head and empty suit. It's actually fucking embarrassing, this guy. Watch.
I mean, it is embarrassing because he
It's
is like clearly not in
embarrassing.
charge. Really
Oh
not.
my Lord.
So that's sad. But on the other hand, we also have a government that's wanting us to trust in government, even though they're failing at every single thing they try to accomplish. Failing at the COVID pandemic, failing at our fucking minimum wage, failing at legalizing pot, failing at fucking climate change, failing every second, and they want us to have faith in the government? Are you fucking kidding me, guys? Sorry, but it's just like,
wow, you sound like a libertarian all of a sudden.
I'm just like literally, because literally,
you're like an anarchist. You're like,
I'm just saying, like, I would love to have faith in the government if the government ever did anything good. You idiots!
You got it. I mean, welcome to where I've been since 1985 or so, dude. Yeah. I even had a political thought in my head.
We've got a government that only wants to maintain power with these Democrats and Republicans. And then we have the FBI that wants to chomp at the bit of every single whatever they can get their hands on. Okay, so today,
what's up with them?
Today, details on FBI inquiry into Kavanaugh draw. You like this old story. You like Kavanaugh. I like beer. So their Democrats are now going after Kavanaugh because their Supreme Court justices won't retire. Yes, right now. See,
for what now?
Because there's two old ass judges that are still on there. The Democrats are trying to get them to retire now, so Joe Biden can put more liberal, neoliberal justices. No, not
Stephen
some
Breyer?
white guy. He's a white guy. Yes, Breyer. There you go, Breyer. Thank you so much. Yes,
who's the George Bush appointment?
Somebody. Well, apparently he's liberal. There's some liberal justice. There's so now I feel like I should have fact checked this, but I forget his name. He's a white guy.
Breyer.
And maybe it's Breyer. That name sounds familiar, but they're trying to get him to retire. Apparently, Joe Biden talked to him, and he's like, "No, I still got some time." So I'm just like, they're like, "No, you're retiring," because otherwise. So now they've already given up on that because they're losers and have no spine. So now that they went to the FBI and they're trying to get stuff off on Kavanaugh. Still, they're trying to get guys. Who has ever gotten a Supreme Court justice off the bench? Who? Never happened, guys. Okay, but also they're literally go ahead.
Think about the ramifications of that.
Yeah,
our entire system is premised on the fact that our three branches of government are equal and absolutely independent.
Correct. Yes. Yeah, that'd be bad ramifications.
You made the point. Like, does the FBI deal in clean investigation and objective inquiry and investigation of people who stepped in the wrong place? I mean, holy shit, man! They leaked about Tucker Carlson. They unmasked him. That's illegal.
It is illegal. It's illegal.
What they did.
It doesn't matter
because he wanted to interview Putin. Like, who the fuck doesn't want to interview Putin? It's so fucking messed up. They basically pretty much paid for, set up, planned the Whitmer so-called kidnapping.
I saw that.
They planned that thing.
They instigate everything.
All of it.
That's horrible.
And that's nothing new. So we're gonna believe their investigation of a Supreme Court justice like that. That doesn't smack of a political hit.
And they're always in the New York Times, Doc. The New York Times, it says, in an interview, Mr. Whitehouse said the FBI's response showed that the FBI's handling of the accusations into misconduct by Mr. Kavanaugh was a sham. Mr. Tyson's letter, Mr. Whitehouse said, suggested that the FBI ran a fake tip line that never got properly reviewed. So they were doing while Mike, Dr. Burgess, where'd you go? I'm sure he'll be back on a second. Oh, he's back. Let's see, I have to worry about that. So literally, because Trump, remember back in the those two guys were like, "There's no way we can ever be president." Remember those two FBI agents that said, "There's no way we're going to ever let Trump be president." Remember that?
Yeah. They're the ones who instigated the FISA court. They're the ones who
exactly. So Trump has never been cozy with the FBI since then, because obviously not. They hate it. Yeah. So, like, they were running their own investigation when the FBI was running it on Kavanaugh, and apparently, the FBI never got any tip lines, never got anything on the tip lines.
Wow.
Yeah. So the FBI, the New York Times tried. Yeah, it's the New York Times. The New York Times details on FBI inquiry into Kavanaugh draw fire from Democrats. Yeah, basically, they're a bunch of liars. They've been lying ever since the beginning of their lies, and they lie afterwards. And they're nothing but dogs. They're even worse than the political class. They're dogs. They don't want to just have a bone. They think if you give them a bone, they'll be happy. But if you don't, you know what happened to Ramsey Bolton, guys? So I'm just saying, guys. You know what happened to Ramsey Bolton?
Yeah.
I would love that to happen to Nancy Pelosi. I'm just kidding.
Well, you're the one who wants guillotines. Yeah, I'm looking at this. What? Yeah, it's Stephen Breyer's the old man left on the left.
Okay, so why is Joe Biden talking to him if he's a conservative? Because Joe Biden is talking to him.
Breyer is not a conservative. He's very liberal judge.
So George Bush appointed a liberal justice? You said?
He didn't think he was, but yeah.
Just like I guess Obama didn't know that Merrick Garland was a warmonger. I want to know.
Yeah, right.
I didn't know. But
yeah, I mean, that's the kind of the beauty and the whole point of the Supreme Court, right? Like that's why they get lifetime appointments, because once they're there, they're like, yeah, I can actually decide and speak my own mind without anyone saying or doing anything about me. It's like, oh yeah, hey, you thought I was a Republican appointment, but I'm one of the most liberal justices we've ever had. Like, cool. That's all right.
And doesn't that bug the Republicans and Democrats when they make mistakes like that? I think that's why they want a commission. That's why they want a commission.
For sure.
What do you think they really want with this commission, Doc? What do they want? Because they wanted our metadata. So what do they want by that? What do they want from us?
You know what they want. You know, well, I forget when you were 2001. That's when I started at UTSA. So that was like literally my first week of UTSA was the 9/11 thing, right?
Right. That sucks.
Crazy. 20 years ago, almost a year, almost 20 years ago, coming up, right?
Yeah.
And that was awful. It changed the country, but I mean, look, we're still in a war in Afghanistan.
Till September 11th, though.
2 years later,
September 11th.
We weren't in Vietnam for 20 years. We weren't in fucking Germany for 20 years. We were there for, what I'm saying? Like, it's insane. And I mean, what's happening overseas is one thing, making money, and all that kind of, people are making billions of dollars. Fine. All these senators got their sons and daughters all set up all over the fucking world, making money off of these countries.
They do.
All of them.
Exactly. It's a life.
Biden, all of them. And Nancy Pelosi, they're all doing it. But the thing that's fine. That's international politics. It's fucking over there, whatever. We're there, we're not there, whatever the fuck. What bugs me is what happens here. That they they're having old ladies take off their fucking shoes and looking up her dress and shit. Like some old lady, like to get on a plane to go to visit her grandchildren, in fucking Kansas. And you know what I mean? Like only so they can't be accused of profiling, a likely or would-be terrorist. I'm like, this is where we are. All in the name of like security and virtue signaling. We're like, feeling up old ladies in the name of security.
Is that what Andrew
joking about this?
Is that what Andrew Cuomo said? Because I'm sure he did. Sounds like something Cuomo would say.
Fucking horn dog probably did it himself.
Like they have no justifications, and now they're pretending after they robbed us 5 times, after they literally stole all of the money out of the Treasury at probably Fort Knox a long time ago. Yeah. Now they're saying they want to do their solemn responsibility or solemn duty the American people gets honor. Yeah, right, guys.
Right.
Like Nancy Pelosi, she's never fooled me ever, and probably because she's always drunk. I don't know how these people fall for it.
I don't know, man.
She doesn't want to investigate the insurrectionists. They already have them all. I know they do.
But a bunch of them, again, the insurrectionists. A bunch of them aren't indicted because they were the FBI.
I know the FBI had informants in there because exactly because they instigate shit. Then Jimmy Dore did a thing where like it said in the BuzzFeed magazine they even admit that the informants did more criminal activities and violence than the real people that were involved in the thing. The FBI informants because they had a deal, they had immunities.
But you know my friend like Sean Walsh, you know, some of my friends Dan Beck, these guys who are like staunch Democrat, just kind of buy the whole fucking bullshit line the whole way along, and try to make like this equivocation about, you know, the insurrection and blah blah blah, and you know the versus the peaceful protests, and how, you know, how dare they, these are traitors or whatever. And I'm like, these were like seriously, you know, like pissed off people for a day, right? Like,
yeah.
what do they do? They walked off. They walked off with like a podium, and they broke a couple windows. Like,
somebody sat in Mike Pence's chair. He's in penitentiary.
Yes, exactly. Sat in a chair, and the Viking guy standing around like in his Viking hat in front of.
That's so sad.
This is an insurrection.
Apparently, he's like a vegan or something, and then he can't get vegetables.
I'm like, this is
liberals are like, oh, you can't eat vegetables. Oh, you're so liberal.
People know what an insurrection is. It's like that was not an insurrection.
It was not. It was a temper tantrum. It was a temper tantrum. It was a wasp. Yeah. It was a wasp. It was a wasp tantrum. I just okay, guys.
Granted,
it happens sometimes.
I'm a wasp, but yeah, I get it.
Why a lot of people. A lot of people in Texas, they call themselves that, and it's like it's not bad.
White
it's not bad. Is it
Protestant? I'm
yeah,
wasp.
Yeah. I don't think that's bad. I'm just saying it was. Because like literally, if it wasn't a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant fucking tantrum, we would have all been dead. Because black people in the Capitol. Fuck no. Everybody's dead. Everybody's dead.
Yeah.
You have to clean that shit. It's not the White House. So anyway,
but yeah, so AOC is safe.
Huh? I know, my God.
AOC is safe.
Why do you have? So Doc, I don't know if you've noticed, but she's been slowly irritating me to the point where I am starting to get cracking a little bit. And because like literally, she's taking all of our values and principles, mudding them, associating us with a warmonger.
She is the worst thing to your progressive movement that has. I think she's a plant. I seriously.
Oh my
think,
God!
Like,
you said Trump was a plant.
She is awful.
Both of them are so bad.
Saying, either that or she is the stupidest, most incompetent person who's ever been in office. Like just a complete narcissistic.
Why do you say that? Because she calls herself a democratic socialist and she's doing capitalism right now for fucking sweatshirts.
She's a hypocrite. She's sold out completely. I mean, listen to Jimmy Dore on her, man. Like,
yeah, man.
Christ.
No, it's true. It's true.
I've seen that from day one. It's like
voted for Nancy Pelosi.
Finally waking up and going, oh, she gets there and now she's like playing the game because she wants
she's
the
playing
again. She wants. She's just correct. He's like. So you're saying, she isn't taking corporate money? Well, that's bullshit, anyways, because she's got all kinds of black money. But even if that's not true, it's like there's other ways to be corrupt. There's ways, there's
obviously,
selling out your values because you want to advance in the party and you want to share shit.
That's exactly what happened. I think, Doc, that's exactly what happened because Nancy Pelosi sat her down and was like, "You can either be a democratic socialist or you can be Nancy Pelosi's little mama bear."
They did it to Bernie.
Yes, I know. So here's my question, Doc. Is there any chance? Is the system so corrupt that if we vote for anyone at this time, they're just going to be corrupted by the system? Because
I don't think so.
I'm giving her the best benefit of the doubt. That could have been what happened.
I don't think they're all corrupt. I think there are honorable people there. They're just the problem is if you are honorable, two things happen. Something like what happened to AOC happens. You get sat down and you get woodshedded by your fucking leadership or whatever.
Yeah.
And they hold out like what happened to the one I love is the crazy lady, the Tammy, what the hell's her name? She is awesome. I mean, that's what a representative should be, as far as I'm concerned.
Why?
Tammy, Tammy, what the hell is her name? The blonde, the crazy blonde chick, who got
Marjorie Taylor Greene, MTG.
Thank you, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Sorry, yes,
Marjorie.
She is what a representative should be. I mean, holy shit, that lady.
I don't know. She's crazy.
She's crazy in the best freaking way. I listened to her. I used to think, yeah, okay. But then I listened to her going, oh, no, holy shit, yes, that's pretty funny. They say, you're not in any committees. She's like, they do that. They say, okay, you're not in any committees. They can't send her home because she was elected.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
In America.
They would love to.
She sent her there to be who she is. And she said, I'm not in any committees. Oh, good. I can say what the fuck I want and go wherever the fuck I want. She's like, bye.
Yeah.
She is awesome.
Look,
I don't
so
agree
I
with her
think
on all the kinds of stuff,
yeah,
but
neither
I
do I.
agree with what she's doing. I'm like,
I
she said they
think
said
go ahead.
go home, and she said, okay, fuck you. I'll
Yeah.
be here for votes, but I'm going to be out there speaking my freaking mind. Like, take me off those chairs. I don't need them.
I think I agree with you. Listening to what you said, I think I agree with you that like that she is what a representative should be in the fact that she shouldn't listen to her leadership. There shouldn't be leadership at all. But the stuff she says is dumb, and I feel like her and AOC should share an office. It'd be like the best TV ever.
They tried.
Be the best TV ever. Great ratings. Great ratings.
Every time AOC is challenged on any of her views, it's violence.
I know.
It's violence. I'm being violated.
You have the one over here. You have the one over here who's fucking ultra dramatic, and then you have the one over here who's like talking through a door flap. Oh, that's James Space Lasers, ma'am. Wouldn't that be the best TV ever? Someone said this. We need to sign a petition. AOC and Marjorie Taylor Greene need to share an office.
Yes, or like sit like on the aisle seats right across from each other.
That would be great. You know they couldn't stop taking shots at each other all through the flight. She's starting. She's violent. No, she doesn't respect I'm the taxpayer citizens. Oh my God, they'll be best. I bet they'll be best friends after a while. I'm sure they will. Just like Cheney and Gore or whatever. Like all these guys are now friends.
Reagan and Tip O'Neill were good friends.
Yeah. Well, so Reagan and Tip O'Neill were friends, and then what about Newt Gingrich and Bill Clinton? Were they friends? What do you think?
I don't know if they were friends, but they got a lot of shit done. And I'm not a Bill Clinton fan.
They balanced the budget.
Once that contract with America, that was Bill Clinton basically lost the House for the first time in like 50 fucking years to Republicans. That's how bad he was. But then he started signing all kinds of legislation, like balancing a budget. That was one of the items on the contract with America. They did it.
Yep.
And Bill Clinton, like, he pissed off the Democrat Party, pissed off the left like crazy. But he's like, fuck you. After
he just got done doing everything they wanted, except for that.
He knew that they had nowhere else to go but him. He's like, he knew exactly where.
I'll do whatever I want. You're in my land now. I feel your pain. I feel your pain.
To his credit, and that's what's funny when they talk about like his accomplishments. I'm like, yeah, he didn't accomplish shit until he got some opposition from the other party, and they literally straightened his ass out. And I think that works both ways, by the way.
I mean, it's supposed to. Okay, so I have two more questions, and then we'll call it a day. But I want to get back to will Edward Snowden ever return home? What do you think? And
not as a free man.
I believe that's true. Because Joe Biden is
in Russia.
Definitely doesn't want that.
He interviews in Russia, isn't he?
That's not his fault that he got. He's
the one in Russia. Right? Assange is
Russia.
locked up, isn't he?
Assange is locked up, yeah, in a consulate,
tortured and shit. Like some.
Who knows? Probably because we didn't stop.
But Snowden is he's.
We did not shut down.
What time that interview like in the Russian consulate or something, right? Like he's still viable.
I don't think apparently he's in an embassy or something, and Putin lets him stay there. But I say it's Snowden, and he knows this too. He was in the CIA. I would not stay in any embassies. Okay, guys.
Right? Don't do that.
I would not do that. Don't do it.
Black hood.
Don't be saying no embassies. But okay. Man, so also,
you got to watch some Matt Damon movies and figure out what's going to happen.
Okay, so maybe we ask Scorsese. Okay, he would know.
Yeah.
Scorsese would know. Okay, so last but not least, okay, so will they get this? Will they get this commission? And will it happen with Republicans, or do you think the Democrats are going to go all the way alone since it's the midterms? Go ahead.
No, they'll be alone aside from those sellouts on the Republican Party. Those like handful Sessions. What are their names? Cheney. It's a couple of them. Can't think of all their names.
Well, Cheney's on the commission. Cheney's on the commission now.
That's from my state. That Adam Kinzinger. What a freaking weasel that guy is. I get his emails. I get all these emails from these people.
Do they only tell you to donate?
I mean, when you're a Republican who the majority of Democrats like, you're doing something fucking wrong. Like, what is your problem, dude?
I mean, if the establishment,
you're proud of that, like
that's what made my stomach turn too, Doc. Is that I saw Chuck Schumer giving Bernie Sanders props about the infrastructure. Even though they haven't even fucking it's not legislated because they told the Republicans they were doing one with them. Remember, so they're lying to everyone. They're lying to somebody. Either they're lying to me.
The Republican Party is being completely
changed over. Like
Mm-hmm.
that neocon. I mean, there's probably no hope for the Democratic Party at the moment. I mean, I don't know what your progressives are going to do. Maybe start your own thing, or I don't know what you're going to do. With
I mean, we're all pretty much doing that now, starting our
But
own
the
thing.
Republican Party, you don't understand what's going on there. They turned over the mayorship of McAllen, dude. Like the Republicans turned over McAllen.
Okay, McAllen, like
And,
Texas.
Yes, the Republican Party doubled its voting membership of blacks, Hispanics, the LGBT. I mean, there's people who are like, the Democratic Party has gone so fucking nuts. It's like all that's left. The only populism left is in this kind of
It is.
groundswell
I'm
of a
starting to
Republican
listen.
movement.
I'm starting to listen to people like Tucker Carlson. I'm starting to listen to people like Sagar and Jetty. That's how populist the right
Well,
is.
I mean, Chris, I like that show, Breaking Points.
Like,
That used to be on
what
the Hill.
fuck, guys?
Crystal Ball. Yeah,
because I'm like, yes, nothing turns off, especially true leftists, more than fucking censorship, and also like your fucking shady cancel culture. It's disgusting.
Thank you.
And you get a puppet to run who's clearly a puppet.
Oh my God. I'm telling you, like, if there's anything that we should, anyone, it's what I like. I hear the thing about, that they're beating up on conservatives, and they absolutely are. I mean, the White House lady said it flat out that they're like, basically want any conservative point of view off of Facebook, not just like things that are against community standards, but anything that's Republican or conservative is basically misinformation and needs to be. That's what our administration is saying. Like,
if Bezos taught you anything, is that the leadership principles can change at any time.
But Jimmy Dore, Aaron Mate, I mean, these guys show you that it's not just the right; it's anyone who's really, really principled on the left too. Anyone who's anti-establishment or anti-Biden or anti-Democratic Party is out. You're out. When has Jimmy Dore been on MSNBC? Never.
No, oh my God. Can you even see that shit happen? Can you see him talking to fucking Joe Scarborough, about fucking war? Yeah, fucking war criminals. I can see John Brennan, the CIA director, Rachel Maddow's dad, John Brennan. Do you see him? You can see Jimmy Dore talking to John Brennan. Oh God, Jimmy would die.
It's fun.
Jimmy would die.
It would be fun.
Oh my God. Well, guys.
So I think, Thomas, you're on.
Oh shit. He went again. What happened, Doc? Where'd he go? He said, I think again what? Now guys, take bets on this. What do you think Doc is gonna say? I think that what? We'll see what he says. Okay. Where'd you go, Doc?
I was gonna say, like, Crystal Ball, she was a leftist Democrat, ran for office. Yeah. I don't agree with her on a lot of stuff. I listen to her and go, Crystal, come on. But what I do appreciate about her is she was absolutely principled on the media and freedom of thought and understanding political points of view from many sides. Like, she's very open in that way. They both are. So I watched them a lot. I watched that show a lot, actually.
Well, I mean, that's what free thought is. It's going against the social norms of the conventional wisdom. It's not newspeak, which is created to meet ideological requirements of English socialism in Oceania. Controlled language of simplified grammar and restricted vocabulary designed to limit the individual's ability to think or articulate.
Right. But it was, and that's what I heard. I heard friends talk about this, like this whole idea that, certain things you say shouldn't be, you need to, to pay a price for having thoughts that are negative or offensive to somebody. And I'm like, are we really saying this right now? Like,
yeah. Thought police? Is this all make not exist, you guys? Yeah. It scares me.
Newspeak was not just controlled thought, like the way Orwell constructed it. It was a way of removing any negative adjectives. When you read the book, it's like they could never refer, even like the adjectives for food. Like, you couldn't say anything bad about food that you were like this. Like, you gotta read the book. You gotta read 1984. Like,
I will read the book. I saw the movie, but I didn't get that. But I'll read the book.
Yeah, Newspeak is not just the media's thing. It was a way to remove any kind of negative, any kind of polarizing adjectives of any sort whatsoever. So people couldn't even use negative adjectives. That was Newspeak.
Thank you. Well, that's why I have him on the show, guys. This is your admin also on Facebook.com/TommyNationPolitics. So, Doc, I I'm sure. I hope we hear from you more often. But
I'll get on.
All right, badass. I'm not. It's not I don't want to be some kind of CEO or any kind of crushing billionaire force. Okay, but we have to be free thinking, guys, innovative, totally open minded at all times. I'm talking to you guys. So yeah, see, have a good.